All right,
What
Nick
an ass.
in
All right, Nick.
Tennessee. Welcome to the
Hey, how's it
show.
Hey, Nick.
Hey. So, Nick, you want to talk
Hey.
about having conversations with Christians who keep pulling the "you were never a Christian"
Oh,
card?
Right. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah,
Dude,
tell us
I'm
a little
so
bit about
sorry.
that.
So I have been having, I guess, mediation meetings with my father and his pastor about the differences in our beliefs and whether or not that should prevent me from being allowed to be around my siblings. And
shit.
part of the conversations have been, what is a Christian, and how if I were a real Christian, then I would know these things and I wouldn't have doubted them. And so the fact that I, deconverted is to them evidence that I was never truly and fully converted.
Mhm.
And so they kind of discredit a lot of my views about their religion
Yep.
in that way, because they're like, well, if you didn't have a personal relationship with God, then you can't possibly understand how real he is, or, that kind of stuff. And so I try and make arguments about like statistics about Christians and their denominations and things like that. But they turn the same thing on those people. They say they're not true Christians either, because they don't have the same kind of, they haven't come to the same conclusions.
Yep.
So they assume that those people don't have the same kind of relationship or understanding, and let's assume that they're not true Christians either. And so I'm like, well, what is a true Christian? They're like, well, somebody who, has a relationship with a personal relationship with God, and can, is as witnessed by like essentially supernatural powers that God gives them, or
Oh gosh.
speaking in tongues and stuff like that.
Okay.
So yeah, the idea is you'll know you're a true Christian if you have,
Magical
overwhelming
powers.
personal anecdotes about it. And I'm like, well, that's dumb.
Yep.
But at the
Very.
same time, like we say, you're not a true scientist if you don't have a certain amount of credibility or a certain amount of understanding, education, whatever. We can put criteria on people groups to determine
True.
membership,
Mhm.
essentially. So is the, you were never a true Christian argument an example of the no true Scotsman fallacy, or is it a legitimate argument on their part that needs
It's
to have
garbage.
its own response?
It's garbage, and let me tell you why I think it's garbage. It's just a layer between you and them. And it's one thing that this is very annoying, and I'll speak for myself. It's one, I hate the bullshit when they say you were never a true Christian. It's like, one, you don't get to make that call, because two, I don't think they can define what a real Christian is, right? If you want to know what's wrong with that Christian over there, ask this Christian sitting right next to you. And it's just,
Right.
To them, a real Christian is one that you weren't a real Christian if they don't agree with you.
Yep.
And I just think that's horse shit, right? It is.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, right, I was telling them before we started the show, when I was in Sunday school as a child, I got kicked out of Sunday school because I kept asking the teacher, what did Noah do with all the poop? The answers weren't satisfactory. So she kicked me out and told me, you're going to go to hell and you'll never see your mother ever again. Now, I can tell that story to 20 Christians and they will all catch the vapors and then turn around and say, she wasn't a real Christian.
Yep.
But the effed up part
Right.
is, let that atheist over there rip a fart without saying, excuse me. That's atheism. They're all assholes, right? So again, that whole, you were never true Christian, that's bullshit. For someone to tell you what was in your head and your heart, that's just beyond rude. And it's just a layer to push back their bullshit just one more step as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, someone can't tell you what you actually were. That's garbage.
Well, they can't tell you what you thought you were.
Exactly.
Like if I say I feel like I feel like I'm an artist, or if I were trans and I said I'd feel like I'm a woman, like we can't question that because we don't question people's feelings about themselves. But if they're saying like, no, you didn't, you might have thought you were a Christian, but you weren't because you didn't have the evidence, just like these like naturopathic doctors or, essential oil enthusiasts and whatnot might think that they are medics or healers, but we would say that they haven't met the criteria for qualification. So do the Christians get to establish a criteria or a membership test to determine who would be considered a true Christian or not?
Well, you know what? That is a good question. And I think that if they used it correctly, then sure. So there's a very big difference between actively setting a standard of guidelines, behaviors, expectations, education in order to access a certain label, right? You can be a doctor if you get a PhD, right? Like that is the requirement. You have a PhD, now you're a doctor, right? Unless you're a conservative talk show host talking about Jill Biden, in which case, she's not actually a doctor. Right. So like there are always going to be naysayers, right? But there's usually, in most circles, a pretty clear set of guidelines that are objective that anyone can look at and be like, you meet these criteria, okay, you are that thing. I might not agree with you on everything. I might think you're bad at what you do, but I'm not going to say you're not that thing. Now, Christians could do this, right? They could absolutely set a standard that they all agreed on that was objective. You must believe this, and this.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Right? But that's not how they use it, right? They're not using that tool in a honest way. They're just using that end goal, but you're not really one, willy-nilly, in order to disagree with whoever it is that is offending them, right? And so it's not necessarily that it's impossible to set up a structure where you can objectively tell who is a Christian. You could totally do that if you wanted to. You just have to get all the Christians in on it. And that has proved difficult. So I think it's less of a problem of the goal of establishing the real ones versus the not real ones is bad fundamentally. It's not.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to use it objectively, and you have to be able to use it across the board, or else it loses its meaning and it just becomes a no true Scotsman.
Okay, that's fair. But so I guess that's a good response when dealing with the topic in general with Christians at large. But when dealing with a specific group of Christians, i.e. my father and his church, who have established their criteria as, for example, somebody who has performed miracles. Mm-hmm. You're not a Christian unless you've performed miracles.
Wow.
Then how do I argue against that when I would agree? Like, I didn't perform any miracles.
Has everybody at your dad's church performed at least one miracle?
I would not say everybody. I would say that they believe that the upper echelons probably have. They're kind of casting stuff like speaking in tongues, interpreting tongues, healing the sick. My dad actually cited the seeing people's legs grow to the same length.
Oh,
and
no.
I was like, that one is a known scam.
Oh.
Like I called it on the spot, but
man,
it didn't matter.
See, this is getting dangerous now.
Yeah.
Because again, believe what you want to believe. If you think you need a God to, not kick your next door neighbor's cat, fine. Yeah, fantastic. When your God belief now starts intervening in reality,
mm-hmm.
right? But my kid's got 105-degree temperature. They're bleeding out of every orifice. Let's have a miracle.
Yep.
You'll be burying your kid. And I say that without jest. That stuff is dangerous. Growing legs back, healing cancers, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. Not a fan.
Yeah. At that point, Nick, like there are a couple of options. Most of them are pretty trolly, right? Like if you want to be like, cool, give me an objectified, like a list of all of the miracles that every Christian in this church has performed and how you proved that they were miracles, and then we can talk. That's one way to do it. Another way is to just, babble some Elvish at them and be like, there, I just spoke in tongues, up yours, right? Like, there are multiple ways to poke at this. It just comes down to how much of a shit do you give about what they think of you after?
Very true.
Because it's very possible that there is no way in hell that you're going to be able to find common ground with these people. And that is going to be something that is probably going to be the outcome. I don't see a way where they are going to tell you that you are okay in their eyes if you are not a believer and you do not accept that they have performed miracles. But If you want to have some fun on the way out, that's up to you.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, you need to be prepared for all possible outcomes.
Yeah.
One of them being, this may be a relationship that you actually lose. And that is sad. We've all probably seen it or at least heard of it.
Yeah.
To where if you are not a part of this religion, that means you cannot be a part of this family.
Yeah.
And that's, you need to be prepared for all possible outcomes. And that could be one.
Oh, yeah. I've been dealing with that for years already.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
I'm trying to get back into the family now.
Good luck, man. Good luck.
Yeah. And honestly, the best thing that I've found is I was never going to get back in touch with my siblings through arguing with their pastor, through arguing with my parents. I was going to always be that person that they could come to talk about things that they couldn't talk about with anyone else. And that's how I built up those relationships. It could be a couple years, and it's going to be fucking hard.
Yep.
But there is going to be that point where they see that you are out there thriving, being a good person. Who the fuck cares if you've done miracles, right? Like, you are somebody that they can go to. As long as you're a safe space for them, then you are setting yourself up to be the best support for them that you can be.
Exactly.
And that's all you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right, we are going to have to wrap up. We still got some super chats to read, but thank you so much for calling in, Nick. We really appreciate talking to you.
Go get him, Nick.
Certainly. Thank you for taking my call.
All right.
Have a good.
Bye.